किरातहूणांध्र पुलिंद पुल्कसाः आभीरकंकाः यवनाः शकादयः येन्ने च पापाः यदपाश्रयाश्रयात् शुध्यन्ति तस्मै प्रभविष्णवे नमः। यो विप्रलम्भ विपरीत मतिप्रभूत वादान् निरस्य कृतवान् भुवि भक्तियोगं सर्वेश्वरो हरिरिति प्रतिपादयन्तं आनन्दतीर्थमुनिवर्यमहं नमामि। तपस्वाध्याय शुश्रूषा कृष्णपूजा रतं मुनिं विश्वेशमिष्टदं वन्दे परिव्राट चक्रवर्तिनम्। I welcome Professor Nagaraj Paturi sir to take seat, and Vishwanat Guha, Dr. Vishwanat, please come. You are there. Sir, you are supposed to sit here. So we are already on air, so no need to wait for more people to attend. We will be always in the so we will start now. I request Professor Paturi sir to be chair of the session, and first speaker will be Shri Dr. Vishwanat Guha MV. Yes. But before that, I need to speak about many of the things that of course I have spoken again and again, but again it is a time to speak more about what the necessity of the seminar and our intention of the seminar. Who is your enemy? ನಾವು ಕೇಳಬೇಕಾದ ಉತ್ತರ ಕೊಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. Who is your enemy? That is most important understanding. Who is on your side and who is not on your side, who is against you. It is very important thing to understand. We are so far we are all discussing so many things. Yesterday also we had a very long debate, day-long debate about the tenets of Advaita Siddhanta and Dvaita Siddhanta. Of course, it is very important to have a very strong and deep understanding of our own philosophies, but at the same time we need to understand who is your enemy. According to me, the Charvaka Siddhanta or this Western Indological understanding is the main enemy of the Sanatana Dharma, that we need to fight together. All of us need to fight together this enemy. All the problems in India are due to Indology only, according to me. Very easy to blame on them. All our understanding of the present day India are based on the Indological studies only. Our sociology, our history, our anthropology and our own culture, our perspective have changed because of this Indology. Indological interpretations of Western people. We have accepted, and it is still on the textbooks. Aryan invasion, textbook of the Sanskrit universities also, Indo-European language, and still we are counting that pastoral people, they created Vedas, they destroyed the original habits of this land, that is Dravida people, and they pushed them deep south, and they created this Varnashrama Dharma, they created this Sanskrit, they captured the power of state, they influenced the state to make it a bigger language or the state language of power, and they destroyed Buddhism. Buddhism is against the elite Vedic Brahmanism, if I quote them. So there was effort to create drift between this Brahmanism and Buddhism. So they called this whole Vedic Sanatana Dharma as Brahmanism and put this Buddhism against this Brahmanism. Greater Magadha, Brancast and all other people, they have done it, and they have created feminism. That is very greater danger of our society. Of course, I am not against women studying and understanding these things, and I have taught many people, and of course we are all open. Of course Vedic people were open, but putting Vedic women against Vedic men is something very mischievous and deceiving trap they did. I quote one person, I will not name him. You have cheated your own women, he said. You have not authorized them to study Vedas. So if Brahmanas are supposed to study Vedas, then what is the work of their women? They should not do household things. They should not do it. They should study Vedas, but you have not let them. So with one sentence he has abducted all our women to their camp. This is the present day problem we are facing. This Johannes Branca, Sheldon Pollock, everything is going to be discussed today. Arjun Bharadwaj will speak about the Sheldon Pollock's Rasa theory, and this Roque Mosquita, Robert Jaidambos, E.K. Hatta, Gregory Darling, Buddhism, Vedantic understanding of evaluation of the Vedantic criticism of Buddhism. You need to, I will send a book to you also, because he has destroyed all three Vedantas in one book, according to him. All Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, everybody is wrong in criticizing Buddhism. It is what Gregory Darling wrote. And also last month on 26th of February, I was to give a lecture on Indology. We started our Indology, review of Indology lecture series. That day we had the lecture of Dr. Bill Mack and also Professor R.N. Iyengar. MD Srinivas, Professor MD Srinivas was here. At that day I was to speak about introduction to Indology. But before that day, somebody sent me a WhatsApp message. Somebody called as Shankru. He wrote that Madhvacharya is wrong in interpreting Buddhism. Of course, he is I don't know who he is, but he copied this thing from one Western scholar, Japanese scholar, E.K. Hatta. So, our Srihari Kurudi will speak about E.K. Hatta's interpretation this afternoon. And Patrick Oleville, you know very well, he has written about Dharma Shastras and all other things, which lead to misunderstanding of the whole Indian culture. And he wrote an article in the print just before the Prana Pratishtha of Ram Mandir, that there was no temple culture in India. Dharma Shastras viewed this temple culture in disdain. I don't know what is the meaning of something dis. They saw it in suspicion. It is what he said, and we wrote this article also. And Michael Witzel, who wanted to interpret Vedas in his own way. And also we have the Stephanie Jamieson and Joel Brereton, whose English translation, first English translation in 100 years, has appeared 12 years back and read by everybody in India. Not to mean that all 140 crore are reading it, but elite people must be reading it and must be thinking that it is a great interpretation. So this is the, to cite only few things. I am citing only few things. It is the power of white skin. In Kannada we call as bidi togalu. People were afraid of this kind of white skin. They thought these are all from Devata Loka. No, it is the real problem. And power of power also. The being in power at the time, these British people, they could write on anything and everything on India and interpret it their own way. And it is their perspective is also very different. And today, Pranav Kumar Vasishtha, he will speak about the starting point of the Indology. That is Al-Hind of Al-Baroni's Al-Hind. How it gave rise to the Indological perspective. Everybody in India around 1780, they all knew only Persian. So Al-Baroni's book was available to them and they started with that thing. So all their understandings are still, it is quoted again and again, Al-Baroni's work. Himself is being a traveler here. How far he could understand Indian culture and the method of sciences and all other shastras, we don't know, but it changed the way people saw India. So the power of English, it is power of English. Before 1850, there was nothing in India. We did not know English. Sanskrit scholars, we studied only Sanskrit, and these people, they started writing in English, French and German. We did not know what they wrote. Neither now. Still not bother to read what they are writing. So we neglected them out of our own ignorance or failure or our laziness. All these things, it is our collective failure to understand the motives and refute the people. Max Muller was accepted as Moksha Muller Bhatta even by Satwalekar, great person who had done great service to the Vedas, but himself, he accepted Max Muller as Moksha Muller Bhatta. Ramavatar Sharma, who wrote this Paramartha Darshana, many of you might have not seen this Paramartha Darshana. He thought all these 6 darshanas are all bogus, so I am going to write this new darshana, Paramartha Darshana. And it is a copy of the Western sciences. And Ramavatar Sharma was the great scholar who studied with the Nayayikas of Varanasi. And he was the teacher of Babu Rajendra Prasad, first President of India. Balakrishna Mishra, great Nayayika, Madhusudana Oja, all these people were great, but they did not understand and they collaborated with these people. And Balakrishna Mishra, he prized this English crown for bestowing him the title of Mahamahopadhyaya, as well as this Mokshamun, this Madhusudana Oja from Jaipur, who just bless the Western crown to be never setting again. So all these people, they did not understand. That is the problem. And the problem still continues. My own elder colleague, or I can call him as my guru also, Ramanuja Tatacharya himself, he collaborated with Stephen Phillips. I did not know, I don't know whether Ramanuja Tatacharya understood his English or not, but he was the co-author with Stephen Phillips about on the translation of Tattva Chintamani into English. I suppose I have ample reasons to believe that he did not understand the danger. I have worked with him. I have great respect for Ramanuja Acharya. He was also very fond of me. But that is another issue. So, P.V. Kane, Lakshman Shastri Joshi, and all other people, not to mention other two persons, who have influenced our modern understanding. I have quoted one person's thing. Wanted to destroy the caste system. So all these things, they are happening to India because we did not understand how they are creating the problems. All this Jainism and Buddhism and Mohammedans and other Huns and all other people, they tried to destroy India, but from outside only. Whereas these Western Indologists, they creeped into Indian society and accepted as our own people. They called one person, he claimed that I am Vedic Aryan. I don't see any difference between myself and I am inside person. Rajiv Malhotra is outside person. Because Rajiv Malhotra did not study Vedas and all other things. So those people who study Vedas, they are inside. We did not understand it problem. We just welcomed them. So even our Bananja Govindacharya, otherwise very knowledgeable person, and he welcomed one person, Robert Jaidambose, as his disciple, and he taught him many texts and claimed that this Robert Jaidambose is a Brahmana from Netherlands. He was from Netherlands, and he said Brahmana from Kelanadu. Kelanadu means Netherlands. But what he did, what Robert Jaidambose wrote that Madhvacharya copied from the Jaina texts. It is the problem. I have written about this thing. So we don't understand what these Western people will write, except for only few people, George Cardona and some other people, very good, still adhering to the principles of Sampradaya and working to improve our Shastras. So it is now our responsibility. I am Madhvacharya and you are Shankaracharya. This is Vallabhacharya. We need to protect our Shastras. We have right and might to defend what we believe. It is a collective effort of Western Indology to create some kind of misbelief in our own Shastras. That is more, that is very problematic thing. So we need to defend our Shastra and we need to reinterpret our Shastras. We need to rewrite our Shastras, write more Shastras. Not America or European people will come and rescue these Shastras. It is wrong notion. It is our responsibility, our responsibility, our responsibility. That's why I call for all our youngsters to take the study of Shastras, so people will be adept in the Shastras. They will not succumb to the modern Indological theory or the modern Charvakism. They will understand the principles of life, why our ancestors they did this kind of service to the Shastras. It is very hard thing. Hundreds of generations of our own forefathers, not anybody else. If we don't study Shastras and if we don't defend ourselves, all the efforts of our forefathers will be infutile. It will be in vain. It will be failure. Because the time coming is, as already warned by the Bhagavata and all other Shastras, this Kalikala is very difficult to manage. It is the prabhava of the time. It is the effect of time. It is there. We need to do something. It is our collective. Still we have inherited knowledge. Poornaprajna Vidyapeetha, Tirtha Vidyapeetha, and so many Vidyapeethas. The Sringeri, there is Vidyapeetha. So people are doing to Vallabhacharya Vidyapeetha is there. People are trying to inculcate the same methodology and teaching to the generations coming. But it is not enough. Even Poornaprajna Vidyapeetha is facing decrease of students, not because of its standard failure of the standards, but so many Vidyapeethas have come up. Once upon a time there were 400 students here. Of course they have spread to the different Vidyalayas, but also it is the problem of population. Population itself is decreasing. So if we are three people, myself, my elder brother, myself and my younger brother is sitting here, we all came to Vidyapeetha, now only one person. How this will increase? This is the problem. Our people are not finding enough brides. That is problem. Without it, it will not grow. So many problems are there. So I welcome all of you. All of you means not only the Upanita Vatus and all other people, but also women and the household wives to study Shastras and make new interpretation, defend ourselves. Write. You need to write, because only writing will make our things stronger. Exactly 10 years ago, there was a hue and cry of Rajiv Malhotra. I don't hesitate to name him. He wanted to have a petition against Narayan Murthy, who funded this Murthy Classical Library in Chicago University. Many Indian people were misled by our own people to give a petition. That petition failed. Of course, it was the Narayan Murthy will not succumb to petitions. If somebody would have filed a petition in court, that would have stayed, but that was not the case. But what is the contribution of Rajiv Malhotra? He started Swadeshi Indology. Swadeshi, okay, but Indology, Swadeshi Indology are both Vyahata terms. They are very much opposite terms. Indology is the understanding of India from the Western lens. How it can be Swadeshi and Indology? Where are Swadeshi Indologists now, 10 years after? Does anybody know? Where are the Swadeshi Indologists? I am asking. Of course, they have written 8 books, and our own colleague, Dr. Kandan, has given me all the books. That is what many publications about Ramayana and all other things and Swadeshi Indology. So many series have been published by Infinity Foundation. But you are not studying him yourself. You are not studying Sanskrit, and you are fighting for the Sanskrit. How it happens? How it is possible? So I request all our modern battlers to study Sanskrit, have a deeper understanding of Ramayana, Mahabharata, Vedas, Shastras, and I request all my Western colleagues also same thing. If you want to study, of course, please, you are welcome. You come here. We have great people still living. Of course, I am your enemy. Don't come to me. Go to other people. Study Shastras. Anybody will teach you Shastras. 5 years, 6 years, study Shastras. Have in-depth knowledge of Shastras. Then you can write anything. But you are on a 1 year cultural exchange program or Fulbright scholarship. Not Fulbright scholarships. Fulbright is for the Indians to study abroad. But some other scholarship, they will come here and they will go to some Pandit and study something and write something. It is not acceptable. My own beginning of Indology started with order of Sri Vidyamani Tirtha Swamiji, who had ordered me to study English at the very tender age of 8. I don't know whether he had real understanding or had the foresight of the future that I would be fighting Indology, but he ordered me to study English and Sanskrit, and it was his wish that we need to understand and review these things, and of course it was, he did not tell me this thing, but my elder Satirthya, Sri Guru Acharya Madhada, he was always mentioning that it was his wish, because he is senior to me and he used to interact with Swamiji, and he inspired me to study many Western perspectives, and I started reading. Of course, I studied only in Gurukula system and had very rudimentary knowledge of English at the time, but still I tried to do all these things, and from this very institution, Poornaprajna Mandira, I was taken to French Institute. Because of Ramanuja Tatacharya, I was taken there, and I had the first-hand knowledge of Indology, how these people will do and what we need to do. So we started Bharatiya Vidyapeetha Pratishthana in 2009, and Professor Paturi sir is there, who is one of the key members of the Bharatiya Vidyapeetha Pratishthana, and also he is managing it still, more active than me now. And that's why we got acquainted with Professor Paturi from the Bharatiya Vidyapeetha Pratishthana only. I don't know how far Bharatiya Vidyapeetha Pratishthana is successful, but we need to do more. And we had organized many conferences. One conference in Udupi in 2019, the dispassionate churning of Indology. And also last year, 2024, we had organized All India Oriental Conference in Udupi, where we had a panel for the review of Indology for the first time. And now, of course, we are also writing a long review of the Stefani Jamison's new English translation, along with in our own commentary on the Rigveda, and it will appear as a separate volume. Our one of the PhD students, Sri Krishna Kumar Desharaju, is working on the this interpretations. Apart from these things, we need to do more. So this year we have started the ICPR study circle program about discussion about the review of Indology, 12 lecture series, and I had invited Professor Paturi sir also to be part of that thing, that did not happen last month. Now fortunately his Roorkee program was cancelled and he is here. Otherwise, you would have seen him only on the screen. He was supposed to be there. But I am very much happy that he is here to guide us. And whom can I expect to be chair of the first session than Professor Paturi sir, who is always at the forefront of criticizing Western Indologists, because not many of you are in the Indology list. There is no need to use much, or nobody it seems to be there on the Indology list. Have you heard, anybody have you heard about the Indology list? Are you there? Of course, only few things, if he has time, then he will forward. Otherwise, if he is very busy with the Indica work and so on, he is very busy. So, I request everybody to apply to be member of Indology list, and you will have first hand, may not be, of course, it is first hand only, you will be hearing what these people say. So, you will have one kind of understanding. But the clock turned around. Many Indologists, they came to our Bharati Vidyat Parishad, because this Indology web list is very sleeping now. They felt it is sleeping, and it is very there was no discussion. It is very saumyavagide anta. Many people are there. So Bharati Vidyat Parishad has got around 3,000 members all around the world. Most of them are actively participating in the thing. So our efforts, they go on, and I request all of you to be part of our efforts to understand the problems and create answers and rewrite our Shastras to suit for the time. That is very much important. We cannot cling to the old things. Things have drastically changed in last 150 years compared to the last 5,000 years. Last 5,000 years on one side, and last 150 years on another side. Everything is changed. Indian culture has changed. We are all changed. We are not living as our forefathers lived. We need to reinterpret, re-understand, recreate Shastras to suit the times. Otherwise, we are sure to be doomed down. So I request all of you, you are here to do this great work with us. And I welcome Dr. Vishwanat Guha to So, Upaya and Vidhi, fundamental tools of practical and theoretical foundations of Shastras. He will speak. I admire his style of speaking. I am the first time I am seeing him, but I have heard him. So, he will be here, and then so many youngsters, they are supposed to speak today. Dr. Maitri ji is here. She will speak about the Western speculation against the doctrinal position. There are many other things. There were many other things, but she has chosen to speak about this thing, about Pushti Bhakti. The struggles of our forefathers. Of course, we are also troubled by this Muslim invasion. But yesterday I was speaking with her, and the problem they had to face because of the Muslim invasion, Aurangzeb and all other people, they have wandered from one place to another for long, and now only we are in a situation to settle down without much difficulty. So it is the very golden age that we have both modern tools and ancient shastras with us. So we need to write and speak. Otherwise, if we are sitting idle, then their voices will be heard. That is the only problem. So we need to speak more. I welcome all of you. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. But again, Shri Hariku Satyan Sharma, he is also very interesting speaker, has very deep understanding of the Indian philosophy. George, he will review the Hamilton's assertions and the philosophy, a short introduction. And then Arjun Bharadwaj will speak on the Sheldon Pollock's writing on Indian literature and aesthetics. Now, but before that, Sri Hari Kuradi will speak about the Ikahata's criticism of Vedantic Madhvacharya's review of Buddhism. He will speak afternoon. Before that, Dr. Vaishnavi will speak about the Robert Jaidambo's interpretation of Madhvacharya. And afternoon we have very interesting discussions with Abhinav Kedambi and Subrajit Sen and Pranav Kumar Vasishta and Dr. Srinidhi. So I welcome all of you, and I thank Central Sanskrit University, who is our whole and soul funder. Because of the great support from my own colleague and my friend Professor Srinivas Varked, and he is Vice Chancellor of the Central Sanskrit University, and also the Chairman of Poornaprajna Samshodhana Mandiram, Professor Sachidananda Udupa. He would have been here to hear us, but for his post-operation problem, he had a slip on the bathroom, and for last 2-3 months he is not able to move out of Sringeri. And all the members of our Poornaprajna Samshodhana Mandira managing committee, so with the support of all these people and all our colleagues in Poornaprajna Samshodhana Mandira, we are able to organize this thing, and I welcome all of you again and again. Also in future also I extend my welcome to you in the future also. Thanks to one and all. Now you can speak from there or either way. Okay. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Now we are going to begin the first session of the seminar. I request Dr. Nagaraj Patorigaju to be chair of the session. A few words about Dr. Nagaraj Patorigaru. Bharatiya Vidya Vibhuti and Prachya Vidya Vibhushanam. Dr. Nagaraj Patori is polymath and thought leader who has played pivotal role in advancing Indian knowledge systems. His contributions have significantly shaped academic programs, research collaborations, and dialogues between traditional Shastric scholars and contemporary academia, ensuring their continued relevance in academia and policy making. Trained at home in Sanskrit and Advaita Vedanta by his erudite father, the late Sri Patori Sitaramanjaniyalu Garu, Dr. Patori cultivated profound expertise in classical Indian knowledge traditions from an early age. His intellectual journey reflects a rare synthesis of deep traditional wisdom and modern scholarly inquiry, making him a vital bridge between ancient and contemporary thought. His life's work focuses on reviving, preserving, and contemporarizing Indian traditions, guiding scholars, institutions to embrace authentic Indian perspectives. As Senior Director and Dean at Indica, Dr. Paturi spreaded mentorship programs, research fellowships, and curated diverse conferences and symposiums. These initiatives brought together distinguished scholars to explore domains such as Vedic mindfulness, yoga, Hindu aesthetics, environmentalism, polytheism, meditation, Hindu ethics and law, and various Indic traditions including Shaivism, Vaishnavism, Tantra, Bhakti, Jainism, and Buddhism. His ability to integrate Shastric and contemporary academia frameworks has expanded Indica's impact, making Indian knowledge system accessible to scholars, students, professionals, and homemakers alike. For over 3.5 decades, Dr. Paturi has mentored thousands of civil service aspirants, equipping them with logical rigor, historical clarity, and profound experiential understanding of Indian culture and governance. His contributions have reshaped intellectual and administrative spaces, challenging colonial frameworks and restoring an authentically Indian approach to policy making. Dr. Paturi serves on the boards of studies and advisory councils of multiple universities and is leading figure in Bharatiya Vidyat Parishad, a prestigious body of traditional scholars dedicated to Sanskrit and Shastric studies. His academic positions include distinguished professors and curriculum designers at the MIT School of Vedic Sciences and board member at Chinmaya Vishwavidyapeetha, Kavikula Guru Kalidas Sanskrit University and Veda Vijnana Gurukula. He has served as editor-in-chief of International Journal of Studies in Public Leadership and continues to serve on academic boards in the departments of Sanskrit and dance and as well as the School of Humanities, University of Hyderabad. His institutional impacts includes co-founding the Maharishi Vedavyas MIT School of Vedic Sciences at MIT ADT University Pune, where he designed UG, PG and research programs that set benchmarks for IKS education. Through his extensive research and teaching, Dr. Nagaraj Paturi continues to bridge ancient Indian wisdom and with contemporary academia, policy and governance. His work continues to revitalize and strengthen Indian sciences and cultural tradition, ensuring that Indian knowledge system remain dynamic, evolving and integral to India's intellectual and governance framework. I wholeheartedly welcome Dr. Nagaraj Paturi Garu to this seminar. With his permission, we are going to start the first session now. I request Dr. M. Vishwanat Guha to present his paper. Dr. M. V. Guha Vishwanat is versatile Sanskrit scholar and educator based in Mysuru. Recognized for his multilingual instructions of Sanskrit Shastras and deep expertise in Vedic literature, Indian philosophy, astrology, and classical Sanskrit poetics. He currently serves as adjunct professor at the Department of Heritage Sciences, IIT Hyderabad, and is chief astrology consultant at Vivek Spiritual Sutra Private Limited. Besides leading a research product on Ramakatha funded by Ministry of Education, I wholeheartedly welcome Dr. M. Vishwanath to present his paper.
One thing I need to say about him, his passion for the learning is so high that he left Darbhanga University. And you understand what I mean.
श्रोतांसि सर्वर्षिहृदां यदीये प्रज्ञासमुद्रे मिलनं भजन्ति तं ज्ञानविज्ञाननिधिं शरण्यं श्रीसद्गुरुं तं शरणं प्रपद्ये. Respected Chair Professor Nagaraj Paturiji and respected where did he go? Respected Dean of Samshodhana Mandiram and all the dignitaries here. I must admit that I've been a little rustic over the years, all thanks to Dr. Veeranarayana that he mentioned that I left Darbhanga University 3 years ago. So you can imagine that the academic rigor that usually happens in these sort of things has also slightly gone down. It has become more public relations nowadays. So I apologize for me being not so very formal and all those things that is usually expected almost as a protocol in academic circles. I apologize for that if I sound very aloof and very easygoing in terms of or in comparison with academic circles. Now, a little bit about the topic that I have chosen. Upaya and Vidhi, fundamental tools of practical and theoretical foundations of Shastras. There is only part one of the title because the other title is a little bit extra, and I thought that if I write it and give it, it would become too much. It would look like a paragraph rather than a title. This particular presentation is mostly in refutation of a paper, of a research paper, which was written by none other than, we can't say pratasmaraniya, madhyana smaraniyaha ityapi kechana santi. Sampradayeshu kechana janaha pratahkale smaraniyaha bhavanti. केचन मध्याह्ने स्मरणीयाः भवन्ति इति अपि सन्ति सत्यं विस्मरणावच्छेदेन ये खलु मध्याह्ने स्मरणीयाः भवन्ति तेषु अन्यतमः the most important one, the prominent one amongst them, none other than Sheldon Pollock. He had written a paper, The Theory of Practice and the Practice of Theory in Indian Intellectual History. It's a 22-page research paper, and it's very difficult to refute the entire paper in one go. So what I have done is, this is only refuting. He has mentioned 3 important problems that he has found in Indian intellectual history. And mostly he has tried to defeat the very foundation of Shastra. So according to him, Shastra used to be only descriptive and it has never been prescriptive. And the transition that has happened from being descriptive to prescriptive is filled with so many flaws, is his claim. So, of course, for the first 10 minutes, I may sound very different because I'm going to present the Purvapaksham, what exactly he has tried to present in his paper. Not the whole paper, but of course, selected points. And this one paper needs to be refuted because it really shakes the entire Shastra system. He has not left any single Shastra, starting from the Vedas and Vedangas until Alankara Shastra. He has taken everything. And he criticizes that all these Shastras have not been true to the nature. They have only been descriptive, and they have actually hurt the very purpose of their existence. That's what he claims. And the very first line that he writes in the paper, I'm just going to quote a few lines because that makes more sense. He says that the extraordinary taxonomical interests and procedures of the metrical texts. So he starts with the Chanda Shastra. According to him, his presentation is that Chanda Shastra that exists as such is of no use whatsoever because it is not prescriptive in nature. His argument is the Chanda Shastra that has been provided as a Vedanga only describes the chandas that have already been used in the Vedas, and using the same meters, one cannot construct a new Veda mantra. This is his premise of the argument. Why he says that he begins with Chanda Shastra like this. So he says that even though the extraordinary taxonomical interests and procedures of the metrical texts, he says that what struck him the most was the nomological character of the handbooks. So very, very subdued kind of using the words. When he wields something, Charles Sutkondu Hodiyodu, as they say in Kannada, it is a blatant attack on the ineffectiveness of Chanda Shastra, according to him. So that's why he says that the apparent homogeneity with which they treated the subject over some 2000 years. He also mentions that so many years ago, when an average reader, I'm looking from, as I said, I'm more now into public relations, so being with public. So if an average reader reads this line, what will be the takeaway for an average reader? A normal person would read this and understand that he has actually praised our Chanda Shastra. He is saying that it has been there for 2000 years and it has been in a certain manner. But the veiled attack at Chanda Shastra for not being quite active, he begins with that. And then he says that the three questions that he raises are very, very important in this paper, where he says that the word Shastra, first and foremost, he identifies that from the different definitions given in the various texts, starting with Kumarila Bhatta and all the Shloka Vartika. It's not that he has not quoted none of our texts. He has quoted all of our primary texts. That's another thing that we have to be very careful. But now, the three important concerns that he has raised in this theory of practice and practice of theory. He says that Shastra has only been theory. We should be calling Shastra as only theory. It is only subjected to that theory. And practice has been cut off from the Shastras, and it has been this separation that has happened from theory and practice is very vital. And when we understand, when we try to read these Shastras, we should read them not as a guide or a handbook or anything. It is merely a theory, a collection of all the points put together in one place, which are, according to him, quite irrelevant to modern day. Okay, so the first thing he says is how the tradition, how the Shastra Parampara itself conceives its own activities as functioning, how cultural practices are thought to be constituted, how are the practices formulated, how are they still existing, how are they moving, and then how far they were entertained by the cultural actors themselves, how it has been continued forward, and lastly, the Shastra and its object and its broader cultural implications. Whether it is true that Shastra has influenced our tradition, that Indian intellectual history, or has it been merely the fact that it has stayed with us as a document and document alone. He means to say that there was no practicality of the Shastras, and it has been only in the form of theory. Because it has been only in the form of theory, and there is no room for practicalities presented there, hence it should be disregarded, it should be removed, because it is no more practical to us. That's the gist of the three arguments that he has made. The first one amongst them is what is going to be taken here, where he discusses the very important aspect of how exactly Shastra has been defined and the difference that exists between the theory and practice. Now, he is very clear in his presentation where he says that Shastras have only been descriptive and they have not been prescriptive. And some of the examples that he has quoted are mainly taken from Chanda Shastra. And then he says that in several Shastras, it has been developed over the time and it has not reached the masses in the right manner. So there is a discontinuity that exists in the Shastra Parampara, and hence that creates a huge question mark whether we should really believe in the authenticity of the Shastra in the first place. He says that if the Shastras have not been able to deliver the practicality, then why should we even consider that as part of this history? And he quotes a very Abhivadana, how exactly Abhivadana needs to be done. And he compares it with, this is a very social norm and it is a progressive thing, and therefore it may not be relevant to this day. Hence, whatever has been written as part of Shastra should be disregarded, because that's the way it was. Once upon a time it was relevant, but not now. Currently it is not at all relevant. Okay, now in order to understand what exactly he is trying to depict, and only one part of Shastra has he taken up, and he has completely forgotten, or he has ignored the other half of it. He talks profusely about the Shasanam part, but he doesn't talk about the Trananam part, which we will deal later. But even when it comes to Shasanam, he considers Shasanam as only the Shamsanam part itself. He is not considering that it can also include the Upayas. Therefore, the title Vidhi and Upaya, how both Vidhi and Upaya have been hand in hand as part of Shastra in our tradition. So whenever we want to begin any work, okay, starting from there to our regular usage, because we are in Bangalore, I'll just quote a simple example of how the word Shastra is relevant in the idea of both Vidhi and Upaya while having Bhojanam. Imagine you are sitting in a Samaradhanam and somebody is serving food for you, Pariveshayati. And during that Pariveshanam, when they are serving the food, there will be people who are allergic to Kosambri, for example. Okay, they are allergic to Kosambri. But what they will say is, Shastrak Badsi. It's a very common usage amongst people. So what is their intent behind saying the word Shastrak Badsi? So it means that there is a Vidhi, and that Vidhi has to be interpreted in such a way, you need to find an Upaya for that, that it should be Nirvaha also should happen, it should be followed, the Vidhi should be followed, but not at the cost of somebody's health. If such sort of an idea can exist in the running tradition of serving food and eating food, imagine how Vidhi and Upaya must have existed in all the remaining areas of our life. It's a very simple example. The lack of grassroots level understanding of Indian Shastras or Bharatiya Shastras has made these scholars come up with such kind of arguments, because they have not had any exposure to the application the application part of Shastras. Shastras are always found applied in our day-to-day life, and they haven't lived the life of a Bharatiya. They may have studied what qualifies as Bharatiya Shastras, but they have not lived the life of a Bharatiya, which is very important for us to understand when we talk about Shastra. Shastra is not just codification of things. It is a very Jita Jagta Parampara. It is a very much living tradition. We keep saying that Shastra is a living tradition. If it is a living tradition, then is it not important for us to live that tradition in order to understand what Shastra is? So that's the first thing. And whenever we want to conduct something or we want to begin our work, Buddhva Karmani Kurvita. That's a very common notion that is there, that without understanding we should not begin. Jnatva prarabhya kurvita akurvano vinashyati. Another statement from the Puranas, because he also in this paper has taken up the Puranas, where he says that Puranas have completely refuted the idea of Shastras and Sadachara. So when it comes to Dharma Shastra, he says that Shruti and Smriti can be qualified, but later on, whatever is claimed as Sadachara is refuted by our own system, is what his claims are. He says that there are certain Puranas who have dismissed the existence of Sadachara. See, my simple point of view here is, it's very difficult to be a rishi. Okay, but that doesn't mean that the very idea of Sadachara should be dismissed completely. Just because once upon a time, there were hundreds of rishis, today there are only 2 rishis. Because the number has decreased doesn't mean that the idea is defeated or the idea is gone completely. Now, his argument is about the numbers, because they all see it in a statistical way that there are no such rishis existing anymore. Hence, Sadachara should not be followed. That gives us a glimpse into his mindset, into their insight of what exactly they are trying to achieve here. By dismissing Sadachara as one of the pramanas for dharma, they want to refute the entire Dharma Shastra and call us or make us uncivilized, in their words. So, because if there is no pro forma to follow, then people will not follow. And if you tell them that all this Sadachara has been refuted by your own Puranas, it becomes easier for people to forego or forfeit the Shastras as well as the Shishtachara or Sadachara. So this is the intent behind all these words that were spoken. However, if we observe how exactly Shastra has remained in our tradition, as I said, Jnatva prarabhya kurvita akurvano vinashyati. Now, very interestingly, this particular line, where is the vidhi here? See, I'm not such an expert in Mimamsa and all, so I will try to present it with the limited understanding of Samskrita that I have. Okay. So, Jnatva is Tvanta Avyayam, Prarabhya is Lyabantavyam. So, it means that both of those activities are followed by something. The very nature of the word is telling us that after knowing and after beginning, you should do something. So usually vidhi is always in the prathama vibhakti. So jnatva prarabhya kurvita. That is a very, very much a vidhi. Kurvita is where the actual idea is, that you should follow, you should do. So if Shastra did not have this idea of practicality, if it was only about theory, then why would Shastra give such kind of statements? Jnatva prarabhya kurvita. It would have been only jnatavyam, finished, full stop. And what you do after jnatavyam is up to you. But that has never been the idea of the Shastras. Shastras have always said kurvita. And what happens if we don't do it? So how do we ensure, how do we double lock it? How do we ensure that we will not miss doing this? Doing whatever has been vihitam for us. Akurvano hi vinashyati. A certain amount of threat has been there. And all societies, including a single small nuclear family, starting from a small nuclear family to big institutions to countries, there should always be reward and threat. It goes hand in hand. I expect this assignment to be done EOD. Whether you want to take it as a threat, whether you want to take it as a deadline, it's up to you. But without that, things won't get done. Their idea is vidhi, that is where the heart of the Shastra lies, that you should do it. Jnatva, after knowing, prarabhya, after having started, do not stop, keep continuously doing it. If you stop it, vinashyati. The same idea that has been represented elsewhere as well. Yash shastra vidhim utsrijya vartate kamakarataha, and all those things. Very conveniently, throughout this paper, he never quotes yash shastra vidhim utsrijya in the right light. He doesn't take it up at all. And that is called as selective criticism, selectively picking up things which may look like they have spoken in what sense. And he has picked only those portions and added it and made it look like the entire Shastra Parampara is absolutely wrong. That's what sometimes, if I have to give a very simple example, first time when I enter the kitchen and I pick whatever items, whatever ingredients that looks beautiful to me and put all of them together and call it as puliyogre, it is not going to work, right? And if I say that this is how the Shastra is, and that's exactly what has happened here as well. If someone reads the entire paper, we will feel that this person must have gone through all of the Shastras. But no, it's only been selective. Only certain parts that have been taken and criticized. And the lack of practical knowledge, the lack of applied knowledge of Shastra reeks from the paper. Okay, all right, then. Kuruvanneveha karmani jijivishet. That's another Upanishad Vakyam, where again the vidhanam or vidhi is very clear on karmani kurvita. Later on, when these texts have very clearly mentioned that there is no escaping from the vidhi. If it is vihitam, then we should do. When it is not done, then there is a consequence for that. That much is explained in the Shastra, because I'm only focusing on one small part of Dharma Shastra where he has actually said that Shishtachara or Sadachara cannot be considered as a pramana anymore. Is the point that I'm trying to refute here with all these things. That's all. It's very difficult to go through the whole paper. Not go through the whole paper is also a difficult part, because it's so much of mess that you have to read it. And then you have to come up with the points to refute it as well. So I have picked only one particular section where he has denied the existence of Sadachara as a pramana. Imagine what will happen if we lose Sadachara. And that shows the intention behind writing a paper like this. That they don't want to present it as an academic paper or a study or a collection of all their thoughts. It is a veiled attack precisely targeted at people to stop following dharma. And if that happens at any point of time, the living tradition of Shastra will stop. And their job is done. So we should see it from that angle as well. Therefore, anyway, so the over-reliance that he has on the texts, every single document is treated as a text by them. So even if it is Veda, even if we call it as Apaurushaya, even if we call it as Shruti, no, it is a text for them. So if it is a text, it means it is subjected to all types of interpretations, misinterpretations, reinterpretations. Just like how in today's world we hear all emerging from their side that this is my truth, this is your truth. Truth cannot be mine, yours, theirs, and all those things. But that's exactly the idea they want to bring here as well into the Vedas. And then verbal codification. These are the exact lines that he has mentioned for defining Shastra. Verbal codification of rules. And he also holds the opinion that this codification of things can be either constitutive or regulatory. Okay. My refutation to that is the codification of rules or any set of rules that we take can be both at the same time. It need not be only one of them. It can be both constitutive in nature as well as regulatory in nature. Because I was just, while coming by train, I was thinking, what is the dhatu of the word Shastra? That's all I have. In 2 minutes, I will summarize. This is the insight that I got, and I just want to share and present it in front of you. The dhatu which is responsible for the word Shastra is Shasu Anushishtav. And this is a Dvikarmaka dhatu. My Vyakarana knowledge is slightly lower nowadays, but you correct me if I am wrong. Okay. Shasu Anushishtav. And there is a sutra called as Akathitancha. And in that Akathitancha, he mentions all the Duhyach, Pachdandrudhi, Prachichibru, Shasu, Jimatmusha, Karmayuksyad Akathitam, Tathasya, Nihri Krishvaham. And the example given is Manavakam Dharmam Shasti. I just want to take this example. The word Shasti, I've written something in Sanskrit, I will read it as part of the summary and then I will try to explain what exactly the idea is, how we can refute the claim that Sadachara is not Shastra, or the entire idea of Shastra should be discarded. Can be refuted like this. Shasti iti Shasanam. That which gives the Shasanam or Anushasanam is called as Shastram. Shasanam. Shasanam kasya. Kesham. And both these questions are valid because of the nature of the dhatu from which the word Shasanam has emerged. So it needs to have something akathitam as well there, which is, avivakshitam, apanadibhihi avivakshitam should also be there. So it is not only the vivaksha of what, but also the vivaksha of whom follows in the word Shastra itself. So dharmasya shasanam as well as prajanam shasanam. For the ease of understanding, I have put it in Shashti. And then dharmam shasti, prajascha shasti, yugapat shasti. Simultaneously, it gives what dharma is, what exactly needs to happen, that is vidhi, and prajaha shasti. And it is told for the people. If it is told for the people, doesn't it mean that it is applicable for some sort of changes, some sort of modifications? And such kind of modifications are always existing in the parampara. It's never been hard and fast where they have said that, this is how it should be. Achamya. Simple example. Achamanam is a vidhi. Okay. The actual literal meaning of the word achamanam is to drink water. If someone were to translate achamya into English, that's how they would translate it. Achamya, after drinking water. But the upayas differ in the same state. In two different sampradayas, upayas differ. Some say Keshavaya Swaha, Narayana Swaha, Madhavaya Swaha, Govindaya Namaha. And some people say Rigvedaya Swaha, Yajurvedaya Swaha, Samvedaya Swaha. So are these two different things? Does it mean that it has been dismissed? It dismisses the idea of the vidhi. It doesn't dismiss the idea of vidhi. The upaya is only bringing the vidhi into action. So how to bring the ideas that have been codified, that have been put in a certain regulation, how to bring them is also existing in the Shastra itself because of the nature of the word Shastra. Therefore, dharmaha vidhiyate and upayaha api vidhiyante. In the same Shastra, there is a provision for both of them. Yes. Therefore, tasmat Shastra shabdena, that trananam which I mentioned can be brought here. Mahabhayat trananam yad apekshitam. Swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat is what has been said. And when we discuss about Shastra and we want to conveniently let go or forget or not see what is the purpose of the very existence and where are we heading, and when we forget all these things, it becomes very easier. It's like looking very deep down and into a confined place where we won't get the complete picture. And that's exactly what has been done by them. Okay. So when we understand the trananam, from what are we expecting the trananam? Some mahabhayat trananam apekshitam. So that trananodeshena. So with that uddesha of trananam, vidhyupayayoho shasanam shastramityuchyate. So both vidhi and upaya are put together in the word Shastra because the word Shastra or the very dhatu has the ability to hold both of them together. Vidhi and upaya. So hence it is to be understood that the parampara of Shastra or the very idea of Shastra has never been only theory. It is impossible to understand that it is only theory. Even including Chanda Shastra, which he mentioned so fondly in the beginning, it's not just that it was not supposed to be used by other rishis to formulate, to create other mantras. But is it not important for us to decode, to understand how exactly the mantra has emerged? Isn't that an upaya? The vidhi is this mantra, is in this chandas. But the upaya also states that in this way, if we approach, if we take forward, then we will be able to understand the Rishi Hridayam. That's the whole purpose. So it's not merely only theory and lack of practice, and practice has never been in connection with theory in our Shastras or in our parampara. So with these words, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity, and I hope to listen to a few more lectures, and thank you so much. Namaste. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes.
To extend that, why do we require Anushasanam as if Shas already contains the basic elements, why use another word, Anushasana? Please highlight that.
Yeah, that is what there should be a preliminary, a prerequisite kind of thing. A preliminary requirement is required for us to understand, not only understand the vidhi, but also to put it to practice. I need to have certain qualifications or certain eligibility. And once we have gained that eligibility, then it becomes Anushasanam. Now, when they said, yes, correct. Shasu contains vidhi and upaya together. That's what I said. Not expand it, but to follow it, we need a certain requirement, we need certain preparation. And when we have that preparation, what follows is vidhi and upaya. Okay. Yes. Thank you very much.
I would like to make a. Is it on? Okay, yeah. Brief observation here. On the basis of my interaction with these scholars called Indologists, what I know is the intention of Sheldon Pollock in writing that is to point out that the tradition that you claim to be sciences, he is comparing it with sciences, your Shastras, are frozen. What he wants to say in the whole article is that they are frozen. There is no further continuity in that. And the very nature of these Shastras makes things freeze, and they do not give, he is not saying prescriptive. He is saying it does not give scope for further development. The very idea of, say, Chandas or any other Vedanga is to preserve. So it is preserving, and even Dharma Shastra is preserving Acharya. So he is focusing on the frozen nature and lack of scope of innovation that people have talked to him, including myself. We showed him how the whole innovation happened in the Shastras. All Shastras have been innovative only. And also what they did not realize, Dominic Ujastik, while he was in conversation with me, then he said, this is already known to me, is this whole question of change and continuity. Any entity, any tradition or any culture always looks at both the continuity and change. So whether it is Anushasana by Panini, it keeps the continuity, and the change happens all by itself, and that is standardization. Standardization happens through Anushasana, that they know. The whole intention there, as you rightly pointed out, the intention is to say that we have the authority to interpret your texts. The whole strategy there is, if they agree that there is some shishta, there is some sadachara, there is some authentic text that has to be followed, then the corollary would be that a Sheldon Pollock cannot come and interpret it. So just to break at the very foundation, they would say that there is no shishta, there is no sadachara, there is So break that very foundation so that the authority would go to them. It actually happened by the time Raju Malhotra was starting his movement. Some Americans, Indians settled in United States, were consulting these guys for when to celebrate Diwali, how to celebrate Diwali, whether to sit during the periods separately while there is Sutaka. No, all the Dharma Sindhu, Nirnaya Sindhu questions were addressed to these guys who eat beef. And while eating his religious food, he gives you prescriptions about Jata Shaucha and Mruta Shaucha and all this. And these people consulted them. So to snatch that authority, they were striking at the very root by saying there is no Sadachara. Everything is changing. So by emphasizing change, by attacking on the continuity, they want to snatch the authority. That is the strategy behind. But you actually got the point correctly. Thank you very much. It was a very wonderful paper.
We have to first review the lens itself. Otherwise, if they say this is not there, you just show that it is there. It becomes quite defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, it should be both, no? Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks to M.V. Vishwanat garu for presenting a beautiful paper on Upaya and Vidhi. And now I request Maitri Goswami to present her paper. Maitri Goswami is a Vaishnavite by faith and learner of Vedanta, Bharatiya culture and Sanskrit scriptures. She has pursued MA from Sampurnananda Vishwavidyalaya, Varanasi with Vedanta as main subject. As the 17th descendant of Mahaprabhu Sri Vallabhacharya, she has been studying all the Sampradayic scriptures of Pushti Bhakti Margiya sect from her father Sri Sharad Goswami and her revered guru Goswami Sri Shyam Manohar Ji for last 14 years. In addition to Sampradayic scriptures, she has studied Sanskrit Vyakarana, Nyaya and Sankhya Shastra and philosophies of Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya and Madhvacharya as part of comparative studies. In accordance with her duties towards her Sampradaya, she currently preaches the scriptures written by Mahaprabhu Sri Vallabhacharya and Vedic philosophy. She is working with her father at Sri Vallabhacharya Vidyapeetha, established in Gujarat, for publishing, preserving and teaching the Vedic scriptures and granthas written by respected Acharyas of Vallabha Sampradaya. She also teaches Vallabha Vedanta in a diploma course run by Department of Philosophy, University of Mumbai, and is working as faculty in online courses regarding the life and works of Vallabhacharya and Puranas, unveiling Vedic principle run by Indica courses. I welcome her to present her paper.
नमः श्री वल्लभाचार्य चरणाब्ज नखेन्दवे कलिकल्मषघातिन्यै तद्वाण्यै च नमो नमः. Before the dates were announced for this seminar, Pandurangi ji had sent me a list of books for referring regarding various subjects. But I felt like cleaning my home first of all. So I apologize for the same, but in near future I will try to contribute with reference to this subject associated with the subjects regarding the Dharma Shastras and the role of women and gurus in the Dharma Shastras, etc. So today I am going to speak about how the West has interpreted the culture and sampradaya of Mahaprabhu Sri Vallabhacharya. and the recent writings about the same, how they have interpreted or misinterpreted the doctrines or the social culture or history of Sampradaya. So I'm just giving a little brief review about how this whole subject came into the eye of Western scholars. The first mention of Pushti Bhakti Marg was made by H. Wilson in his works about the sketch of the religious sects of Hindus. It was published in Asiatic Researches in 1826, and since then this whole chain of misinterpreting the doctrines and social culture kept on continuing until this day. So history needs to be traced, because all these new people, whenever they write about Vallabh Sampradaya, they are quoting these gurus. They feel that Wilson is the guru, Max Weber is the guru, and these are the gurus, and we are continuing the legacy of their studies and writings. So no thesis misses to mention these people and their writings, and hence they are contemporary in spite of they being age old. So in his write-up, he wrote that what does the Pushtimarg mean? Pushtimarg means the way of eating, drinking and enjoyment. And this is the sect which is made for merchants and bankers to flourish. This was the first statement he made, Wilson, H. Wilson, in his work. And later on this was quoted by a young person named Karsandas Mulji when he had a personal quarrel with a direct descendant of Vallabhacharya when they settled at Bombay Presidency. As Acharya ji was mentioning, that Vallabh Sampradaya migrated a lot more, and later on they ultimately settled around Gujarat and Mumbai during the British rule, and they had to migrate from Vraj because of this Muslim invasion. And when they felt that this is the time to settle down here, we had new enemies in front of us. And these were present in Bombay Presidency to question the doctrines, question the traditions. So this whole tradition started with the mention of Wilson, which was later on quoted by Karsandas, which was hailed as Maharaj libel case. And this case has never been passed. Recently, before a year, Netflix showed a new web series which was created by Yashraj Films, and it again revived this whole history of Maharajas being involved in immoral activities when that time Bombay Supreme Court had given a judgment that Pushtimarg is an immoral path, because it follows the Leelas of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, because it interprets the Leelas of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. They consider the Kama Bhav of Gopikas as their idol, and then they involve in immoral activities by sketching the lifestyle of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, and hence Pushtimarg teaches immorality. This was the statement given at the end of Maharaj libel case by then Bombay Supreme Court. And this guy, Karsandas Mulji, who had confessed that he has never studied any scripture of Pushti Bhakti Sampradaya other than a Marathi translation of Siddhanta Rahasya Granth written by Mahaprabhu Shri Vallabhacharya by an unknown person, and other than the Gujarati songs which were prevalent within the Gujarati community. Other than that, he had never read a single text of Pushtimarg, and on the basis of his writing heterodox religions of Hinduism, which is Pushti Bhakti Marg, Bombay Supreme Court gave this judgment that Pushti Marg is an immoral path. And hence this word Pushti was later on misinterpreted with this whole chain of misinterpretations which is continuing until this day, because of which we were not even able to stop this web series Maharaja, which continued this legacy. It was published right before a year on Netflix as web series. So this is the whole issue because of which I felt like reviving this whole study. So history of Pushtimarg faced a lot more changes through the time. And when we settled around the area of Gujarat and Bombay Presidency, even that and even the settlement of Goswamis in the Rajasthan when the kings of Rajasthan accepted Vaishnavism because of the influence of their gurus, the writers are saying that this was the manner of institutionalizing the sampradaya. So they are trying to create a drift between Sri Vallabhacharya and his son, Sri Vithalnathji, by saying that Vallabhacharya wanted this sampradaya to be something different, and Vithalnathji tried to institutionalize it by taking favor from Akbar and the later people, and then they felt that these are not the good people, they migrated towards Rajasthan. Then they took the favor from the Rajput kings, and when they felt that no more this kingship is going to continue in India, then they took favor from these bankers and merchants and tried to flourish on the land of Gujarat and Bombay Presidency. So this was a whole materialistic approach towards the sampradaya. When these people later on started learning the scriptures of sampradaya and they started settling around the place, at that time, they always tried to see the business community by saying that you people are against the austerity and you people are trying to use this Pushti Sampradaya as the validification for the activities you are doing for your financial growth. So the gurus were also disregarded by them, the Shishyas were also disregarded by them, and they tried to create a gap between the Guru Shishya Parampara by saying that gurus are no more the authority within the Sampradaya, and who are the new gurus? This Wilson and Max Weber are the new gurus. So we will be continuing this tradition, as Paturi sir also said, that they tried to cut our sampradaya from the root. Hence, during this Maharaj libel case, the Atmanivedana mantra, which is the Diksha mantra of Pushti Bhakti Sampradaya, it was questioned. And on that, David Haberman, who is a Gaudiya Vaishnav, he wrote a paper on trial, the love of 16,000 Gopikas. So this was on trial, that are these activities considered to be legitimate and moral activities or not? And hence the Atmanivedana mantra, in which we are saying that I offer all my belongings, including my Atma, in the lotus feet of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, they try to misinterpret the whole Atmanivedana mantra by saying that because the Atmanivedana mantra itself teaches immorality, hence the whole sampradaya which is standing upon this Diksha mantra needs to be entitled as an immoral path. So in Maharaj libel case, the Atmanivedana mantra was spoken in front of the court. The commentary by the revered Acharya of Sampradaya, only 2-liner commentary by doing this divide and rule capacity. They cut the whole commentary, used the 2 lines of commentary and said that they are teaching their students to offer their bodies to Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Now that offering our body was along with Pran, Indriya, Man, Buddhi, Chit, Ahankar, along with Atma, where we are confessing in front of Bhagavan that we are Atma Nivedit towards you, and this Atma Nivedan is nothing exclusive to Pushti Marg, but each and every tradition of Bharat is practicing Atma Nivedan. Even Jnana Marg is practicing Atma Nivedan, for which Sri Gokulnathji has interpreted the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad's Shruti, where the Shruti is saying that consider this Atma as the king of your Rath. And your Jivatma, where the example of Rath and the Rathi is given, he is interpreting it by saying that even Jnana Marg is practicing Atma Nivedan, even Karma Marg is practicing Atma Nivedan, and even each and every sect within Bhakti Marg are practicing Atma Nivedan. Hence, if immorality is the problem with the Atma Nivedan mantra Diksha, it needs to be with all the aspects of Atma Nivedan. But this aspect was not presented in a proper manner, and because of this misinterpretation, the whole tradition of continuing the Pushti Marg as the tradition of well-being, the tradition of enjoyment, these were the translations which were made for the term Pushti, where Mahaprabhu Sri Vallabhacharya is clearly mentioning that Poshanam tad anugraha, which is the statement from Bhagavat, where the Poshana Leela of Bhagavan is seen as the grace of Bhagavan befalling upon his devotees, which are running the sentiment of bhakti in the heart of a person, is what I mean by Pushti Bhakti. But you are translating the term pushti as the path of eating, drinking and enjoyment, and the path which is providing legitimate standardization for the people who are involved in financial activities, because the mass following of this sampradaya is from Vaishya tradition. Now the problem with this people and their mindset is that if we are saying that we are supposed to provide the adhikar of mukti only to the Brahmins, in that case one person is claiming that Vallabhacharya tried to impose the Brahminical rules of purity upon his disciples, which are the Sadachar Parampara, which are followed by the people while they are serving Bhagavan. On the one hand, you are saying that they are trying to impose the Brahminical aspects of purity, and on the other hand, when we are opening the gates for all the class of society for doing bhakti, as explained by Bhagavan in Gita and Bhagavat both, that bhakti is a sarvadhikarak marga, at that time you are saying that when you are enrolling the Vaishyas into your sampradaya, you are trying to legitimize the financial activities which they are doing. So you are closing the door from both the ways. While Sri Vallabhacharya in his text Panchashloki says that dhanam sarvatmana tyajyam tyacche tyaktum na shakyate krishnarthe tat niyunjita krishnaha anarthasya varakah. This is what Vallabhacharya is saying about the financial activities in which a person is involved. So when we are denying that sannyasa marg is not surviving anymore, mass people will not be able to follow the path of sannyas for the attainment of mukti, and hence we are opening the path of bhakti for the sake of each and every class of society, including the grahasthas, including the brahmacharis. At that time you are saying that any sort of activity in which grahasth is involved is only for the sake of legitimizing his activity. So these were the problems which were created, and these are the interpretations which have been continuing within the tradition also by the modern researchers like Sheetal Sharma, Bennett Peter, everyone. Bennett Peter, he lived at a house in Ujjain where they were practicing Pushti Bhakti Marg since the time of Vallabhacharya, and he wrote a thesis in Nanda Baba's house, Devotional Experience in Pushti Marg Temples, and he is studying the tradition of Pushti Bhakti Seva, and then at the end of the thesis he is saying that all these offerings of Naivedya and the variety of Naivedya that are offered in Pushti Marg are for the sake of expressing your wealth. Now, you are living in the house of a Vaishnav, you are trying to be keenly considerable about each and everything they are doing, and about the offering of the varieties in Naivedya, the way they celebrate the Utsavas, the way they are decorating their Sevya Swarupas. At the end, you are saying that this is only for the sake of expressing your wealth. Now, Pushti Marg became a subject of wealth, and also about the acharyas, also about the shishyas. Now this was only about a small principle of offering your tanu and vitta in the service of Bhagavan, for enrolling your ahanta and mamata with Bhagavan Shri Krishna, for associating your chitta in Krishna Seva. So Vallabhacharya in Siddhant Muktavali says that chetastat pravanam seva tatsiddhyai tanu vittaja. So how do you associate your chitta with Bhagavan Shri Krishna? By offering your ahanta and mamata in his lotus feet. How to offer your ahanta and mamata? For offering your ahanta, you serve Bhagavan through your body. For offering your mamata, you are serving Bhagavan along with your belongings, your family, your house, your wealth, and whatever you personally possess. Now this is the aspect of tanuvittaja which is leading a person towards the attainment of chitta pravanata, which is the falatmak avastha of Pushti Bhakti, known as Manasi, Nirodh or Sarvatma Bhav. And he is linking this whole practice of Pushti Bhakti Seva with how the Bhagavat is growing from Sarga Leela until Nirodha Leela. So each and every devotee is associating itself, and hence Nirodha is the most culminating point of Pushti Bhakti, and then you are hitting this aspect of Tanuvittaja by saying that these grahasthas are expressing their wealth by doing seva, by decorating their deities, and all the wealth which is possessed by the gurus of the sampradaya are also provided by these Vaishyas for legitimizing their activities. Now in Swavrittivada, Shri Purushottamji is clearly mentioning that what should be the method of ajivika of a guru who is from a grahastha parampara. There he is saying that because that person is guru and that person is a Brahman, because he is a guru, hence no Paurohitya is supposed to be the Ajivika of the descendants of Vallabhacharya. No Bhagavat part or Puran part needs to be the Ajivika, because Bhagavat is the verbal form of Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Hence, only Ayachit Vritti needs to be the Ajivika of the Grahastha Gurus of Sampradaya. So, you are not consuming anything on the name of your deity, but rather you are accepting whatever is provided by the Shishyas without any sort of yachana. This is said to be the legitimate manner of accumulating money for a guru, and on the other end, you are saying that the Vaishyas are offering the guru for legitimating their activity of financial business. Sri Vallabhacharya led his life as an Akinchan person. Yesterday only I was talking to Acharya ji that when Sri Govardhan Nath ji said that I need a cow for my daily consumption of milk, at that time as a Brahmin he is selling his Swarna Pavitri for purchasing a guy, for purchasing a cow. He was living as an Akinchan person, and for that person this people are writing that the Bharat Brahmana of Sri Vallabhacharya was a financial tour. They are making use of this particular term, that Bennett Peter is making use of that particular term, that the whole 3 Bharat Brahmana Parikrama of Vallabhacharya, 6 Dwarika Yatras of Sri Vithalnath ji, and 3 Jagannath Yatras of his elder brother Sri Gopinath ji are financial tours. They are trying to consume the money from the Grahastha people for the sake of their lavish life. So this is how you are trying to interpret a Grahastha Parampara. When we are opening the gates for Mukti, when we are opening the gates of Bhakti for these Grahastha people, and we are saying that, okay, not everyone is eligible for sannyas, not everyone is capable of offering the needs which are needed in the sannyasa dharma. In that case, these grahasthas can serve Bhagavan at their own house. At that time, you are saying that whatever they are doing is illegitimate and gurus are trying to accumulate money from them. When the Rajasthani kings, they accepted the descendants of Vallabhacharya as their gurus during the reign of Aurangzeb, when we had to migrate from Varaj. At that time, we took ashray at Jaipur. We took later on ashray at Udaipur state, also at Bikaner state. But when a person was provoked, the king of Jaipur, at that time the 5th descendant of Sri Vallabhacharya, he left the Jaipur state by saying that I don't even want a piece of sand from this place where you do not have capable amount of adar for your guru whom you are providing the ashray. So protecting the dharma was the kartavya of a kshatriya, and you are trying to misinterpret that kartavya of the kshatriya kings by saying that they had their personal benefits to be attained from the descendants of Vallabhacharya, and hence they provided the ashray to these people in the Udaipur state and Jaipur state. So these are the issues which were created by these Indologists, and then later on they were hailed by these people by saying that you are the foremost one. Karsandas Mulji, after winning, so-called winning the Maharaj libel case, he was hailed by people from the West by saying that he is the one who will be creating reform in India, and he is the most reformist person within the state. So these are the prior people who tried to misinterpret the tradition, and this whole legacy was continued by the modern researchers, modern dissertations, who keep on totally saying, these are the clear words from what this person, Natasha Valdemia, is saying, that the social groups that Vallabh had attracted into his fold were very dependent on social and political stability. Now, Acharya is dependent upon the people, but aren't the people responsible for protecting the dharma? So you are not keeping both the parties on the equal grounds, but rather you are saying that Guru is making use of the Shishya. Shishyas are trying to find their own benefits from the Gurus, and then they both are involved in the propagation of an immoral path. So these all traditions of misinterpreting this whole thing, including the notion of image worship. Recently, a person wrote about the movement of Krishna in West. Richardson wrote a book by saying that the movement of Bhagavan Shri Krishna in West about the Pushtimargiya community which is settled in America and other parts of Western countries. And there he said that those people are accumulating more money from there, hence this Pushtimargiya tradition is flourishing in the West. And then they are opening the grand temples for their people to run the same as a community center, and then they are promoting the activity of accumulating money from the West. So you are so much materialized that you are not able to understand that what is the purpose behind the usage of money for the good sake, usage of your money for the Atmanivedana Dharma, usage of all that you belong in the service of Bhagavan Shri Krishna for ultimately attaining the Nirodha in Bhagavan. And if it had been only for the sake of devotees, even in that case we can exempt their interpretations, but they are going towards the acharyas and mentioning that these acharyas roam around the Bharata only for the sake of their financial tours. So this Weber, he applied this thesis of spirit of capitalism, which he had studied in Europe, and he said that India is moving towards the same path. And unfortunately, these people have never been old. Hence, I try to revive these historical writings that even the modern researchers and even the modern dissertations are always pinning these people by saying that this is how Pushti Bhakti Sampradaya is. Hence, later on, no work from the West has ever acknowledged the Vedanta interpretation of Mahaprabhu Sri Vallabhacharya. They have never even understood the Shodas Granthas, which are said to be the heart of Pushti Bhakti, where he is explaining the Dharma of Bhakti. And rather, you are just involved in these type of social studies for understanding a whole class by saying that this is a community of grace, which is flourishing upon the financial stability on the name of Bhakti. So these are the issues, and as a response to all these things specifically about Maharaj libel case, recently we published a book for answering the doctrinal stand when this Maharaj web series was published on Netflix. And as Acharya ji said, that this is a very good opportunity for me to present these misbeliefs these people are trying to propagate. And they are contemporary, they will be contemporary, and they are keeping on pushing this contemporary studies in future. So thank you, and I would like to end my presentation here. So Bhagavan is the Rakshak of Pushti Bhakti Marg, as said by Sri Vallabhacharya before he departed for Vaikuntha Lok. So he continues to be the same, and we are in his feet for protecting the path with all the possible efforts. Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Sri Atmapriyananda famously said, Sri Atmapriyananda last year he said he does not believe in Hindus because he said, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthana madharmasya tadatmanam srujami. I will come and I will protect you. So God is the only person who can protect all of us, rightly said. And I welcome Sri Vishwanat and Dr. Maitri to receive this book.
Now we have a paper from Vaishnavi Nishankar. She will present her paper online, so we have to make arrangement for that. We are making arrangements. I request Vaishnavi Nishankar to please wait for 2 minutes.
ಶುರು ಆಯ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವ? ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದಾರ? ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದಾರೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ತ್ ನೋಡಿ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟ್ರು, ಆರ್ತ್ ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಪರಿಚಯ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದೆಯಾ ಇಲ್ವ? ಸರಿ, ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಸತ್ಯನ್ ಶರ್ಮಾ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಹರೇ ನಮಃ. ಅಲ್ಲ, ಮಾತಾಡೋದು ಇಂಟ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಬೇಡ? ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅವರು? ಆನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ರಿ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್. ಆನ್ ಯುವರ್ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಓಕೆ. Dr. Vaishnavi Nishankar is Dvaita Vedanta. She studied Dvaita Vedanta with my Acharya, Professor Prahlad Acharya, who is now Peethadipati of Sri Sosale Vyasaraj Matha. She holds PhD in Dvaita Vedanta, and now earlier she worked with MIT Institution, MIT University IKS Center. Now she is working with SKF, Siddhanta Chaveri Knowledge Foundation, to create tools for modules of courses across engineering colleges and all other colleges. I welcome Dr. Vaishnavi. Please start. Not hearing you. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? Not it.
It's I think should I try rejoining?
No. Now we are hearing you. Start.
Okay.
Start now.
Namamsi Acharya. It's a really great opportunity for me to make a presentation here. Let me start with my salutations to the Apadamauli Paryantam Guru Namakritim Smaret Tena Vignaः Pranashyanti Siddhyanti Cha Manorathaः Abhramam Bhangarahitam Ajadam Vimalam Sada Anandatirthamadulam Bhaje Tapatrayapaham. Let me just share my screen because there are a few texts that I would like to show, and reading those elements may be helpful for you to follow what I speak. So, is my screen visible, Acharya? Acharya, can you please confirm if my screen is visible?
Yes, we are visible.
Should I continue? Okay, I am assuming that you are all able to view my screen. It is indeed a very important seminar that we are working today on, which is the review of contemporary Indology texts, translations and interpretations. my topic is on Sri Madhvacharya and the West, which is a very, very, very broad topic, which I might not be able to cover in the given, scope of things here. So I'm going to just fixate myself to one illustration of an article by Zaidan Bose. So the focus text I will be discussing here will be on the on Madhva and the reforms and the reform of Vaishnavism in Karnataka by Robert Zaidan Bose. This is an article that has been published in the Oxford India Hinduism Reader, which is edited by Vasudha Dalmia and Heinrich van Steeten-Kron. So I'm going to only discuss this one article and not again in detail, because the entire article has content which has got a lot of discussions from an Indological perspective, critiquing from an Indological perspective, and the coverage of the entire article also is probably not possible for me. But some aspects have already been dealt by Veeranarayana Acharya previously. He had written a rebuttal to one of the important, claims that were made by Robert Zaidan Bose on the Jaina background of Dvaita Vedanta, claiming the proximity of, the places between where Jainism flourished in Karnataka and where Acharya, Madhvacharya was, born and he was living. So based on that and some so-called similarities which had very different contexts when we look at, acceptance of Bheda or the Pramanas or, Vishvesha and things like that, which are so-called appearing to be common between Jaina and Dvaita philosophies, but are very far away from contextual perspectives, which was completely overlooked by Robert Zaidan Bose. So this was refuted by Veeranarayana Acharya through a rebuttal, on which I had the fortune to work on along with Acharya in giving him some assistance. So this is one part that has been already dealt with. It is a very detailed rebuttal. But I am going to focus on some other aspects from an general Indological, from even a common reader of Dvaita Vedanta, who, those who can make out the kind of, critiquing that is happening from the pen of Zaidan Bose, how it is, quite misleading, and how novices who do not have background in the study of Dvaita Vedanta or, even Indian philosophy for that matter, we can be easily misled to with the misinterpretations that Zaidan Bose poses. So it's an open secret of Indology that it is gripped with the, particularly when we look at research in humanities and social sciences, Indology has these two intentions which enable them to use strategies like, when we look at say historical critical method or, as Acharya mentioned in the morning, selective critiquing, or if you want to look at romanticizing texts. These are all more or less strategies or tools that they use for misleading readers when they go through Indian or Shastric texts. But the intention behind doing this is something that we can kind of observe as Indologists having observer bias. So what is this observer bias? Is the observer influencing the study. So the study is actively influenced. It is not, while the entire Western understanding of a study or a scientific research is always about being objective, being non-participating in the process of research or study, so that they do not influence, and there is, the object is studied and known in its own state without having any kind of subjective influence. But when we look at the Indological research scenario, we find that it is, overshadowed by observer bias, where the observer is actively influencing the Indological study. Here, the observer being the Indologist. And then we also have another, intent that is very, very, evident from the critiquing that they do, which is observer expectancy effect. So what does the observer expectancy effect mean is the observer has a specific expectancy as an outcome of study. So they want a particular consequence or a result to be, arrived at. So they have already decided what the consequence or the result of the study should be. And then they steer the entire study to move towards that result. So instead of a research or a critiquing being in such a way that you do the study and arrive at an outcome, and understand what is true about it. Here, first, the result or the consequence is fixed. That we want to ensure that Dvaita is understood in this particular light. Madhvacharya is supposed to be 1, 2, 3, whatever X, Y, Z. So you have already first made a claim that this is supposed to be the reflection that one can carry on, as the result or the outcome of the study. And you drive the entire critique of the, Shastric text or the philosophy in such a way that you are actually able to arrive at that particular, result or outcome. So these are, so in order to do this, they use, things like historical critical method or, all these other mechanisms like you have romanticization or whatever. That's all, conducted. So I am going to point out a few of them which were evident in the article by Robert Zeidenbos on Madhvacharya in this particular, reader. So I'm not going to get into the, full details of how it happened, but I'm trying to just bring out those aspects, those particular, parts of the, article, which have this, deliberate misleading aspect to it. So from that perspective, so one of the, paragraphs, it has a bit of detailing, which I have kind of compressed as the fact. So this one tool that they use is fact tricking, where there is a lot of facts. So they mention about Panchabheda. Madhvacharya accepts that there are, there is Panchabheda, Advaita stand is this, and Madhvacharya is, Bhedavadi and all that. So all of that is kind of, there is a narrative which is about the facts or the point of the points of differences between, Advaita and Dvaita and things like that. But ultimately, they add in certain terms very, very, kind of naively. Doesn't appear that the it is something intentionally put there, but those terms are enough for us to actually change the interpretation. So that kind of, so when they say, if you kind of try to counter the narrative, you will find that have they mentioned about Madhvacharya properly? Have they mentioned about Dvaita being a Bheda oriented mata? Have they mentioned about Advaita being Abheda, oriented? All that will be there. But ultimately, there would be very, very subtle, words that would trick you, that would actually move the interpretation from one, side to the other. So one such fact tricking that I found, that I came across in the article is where Zeidenbos claims that Madhva's claims his doctrine to be Vedic, which is a fact. Two lines of argumentation in defense of Advaita are, posited by Madhvacharya. One of them is logical critique of Advaita epistemology and ontology, which is true. Madhvacharya does do a logical critique of Advaita epistemology and ontology, and he, points out to faulty exegesis of scriptures by Advaitins, and they are refuted by Madhvacharya. Yes, it's a fact that Madhvacharya does this. But where does the tricking come? So when we read this, passage, it says, Madhva was quick to point out that besides the Abheda Shrutis, there are also Bheda Shrutis, passages which are hard to explain in a monistic manner. In a great exegetic effort, was the exegetic effort actually that great is something, the Sampradaya Acharyas would be able to say. So Madhva and his followers argued that the entire Vedic literature points to Vishnu as the Supreme Lord. Now, if we just focus on these words, besides and also, the impression that we get is that there are Bheda Shrutis, there are also Abheda Shrutis that are acknowledged by Dvaitins, which means that it comes to an understanding that Dvaitins accept that there are, Abheda Shrutis also, but besides Abheda Shrutis, we also find Bheda Shrutis. So that is something we will not be able to, reconcile is in one sense that because from the Dvaita standpoint, there is no Shruti, though it apparently posits Abheda, we are able to, when we look at it in context, or when we take the entire Vedic intent and we are able to interpret it, we know that it does not definitely posit Abheda, or it does not explain Abheda in the sense that Advaitins, argue. So this kind of, so the impression that Dvaitins accept that Abheda Shrutis are also present, that's the kind of impression that is. So they say that Bheda Shrutis are there, Abheda Shrutis are also there, and Dvaitins are only taking or towing the line of Bheda Shrutis, and Abheda Shruti, no, we don't know what is happening with that. So that is the kind of impression that gets formed when we, read the narrative. And then there are misinterpretations, misrepresentations, where, issues are created. There are ghost issues is what I kind of, was tempted to use the term, where actually there is no issue, you create one. Owing to the way you kind of want to create, some kind of a drama there. So you try to put in words. It's like, when somebody gossips, they kind of say, I don't know, I think this is how it went. There is no, issue actually, but you are adding your intonation, all your, vocal, talent to bring in an issue where actually there is none. So how do they do this? Is by using words tweaked up a bit, but leading to a different understanding. So you use something that is, synonymous, but the granularity will ensure that the synonym is able to give a twist to the meaning, right? So that kind of misrepresentations are also found in the article. So for instance, if you can look at the text here, it is necessary to distinguish between Madhva's own intentions and what his later followers made of the new tradition. Now, we all know that there are sampradayas where there are, divisions of thought. Like you have in Advaita, you have the Bhamati tradition and the, Ratnaprabha tradition. So there are traditions that we find that factions are, there. But we know in practice that in the Dvaita Sampradaya, particularly the intellectual Sampradaya, there is no such division that comes across. Now, but this is something that has been, put in by, there is none, there is actually none, but the author, kind of invents a plot saying that, one has to understand how to distinguish between Madhva's intentions and the intentions of his, followers. Right? So this is like ghosting a division. And Madhva himself was a revolutionary character. So revolutionary character in the sense of, when his Acharya was teaching him from an Advaita Sampradaya perspective, he stood up to, correct the interpretation of the text. But here, so he was of a revolutionary character who rebelled against Brahminical orthodoxy. Now, this term rebelled against Brahminical orthodoxy is a notorious term, is what was my understanding, into which he was born. His oeuvre and theology expressed in it are a spectacular intellectual feat and display an independent mind. So he is kind of romanticizing Madhva to say that, while doing this rebellion, he was somebody who was great in the sense, he showed that there was an independent mind that he had. He did not, so in one sense, you would not feel that, you would feel content. The reader would feel if they had, leanings towards Madhvacharya that, oh yeah, he's praising Madhvacharya for having an independent mind. But under the pretext of doing that, what Madhvacharya's character is being done through this kind of a narrative is a little different. So the impression that we get is that the followers of Madhvacharya had views different from him, which needs attention. So you are trying to bring in, now there is more opportunity given for the Indologists to look at these two readings and create new misrepresentations and misinterpretations in the followers of, in the texts or the theories of the followers of Madhvacharya also. So now that's a new project that they get assigned with. And Madhva rebelled against Brahminical orthodoxy in toto, instead of the idea that he course corrected the system, leading to an understanding of Madhvacharya being an offender of Orthodox Brahmins, instead of coming across as reverential for his contribution to the community and not just Brahmins. So this is some kind of a notoriety that we find that the text is able to kind of lead us when we look at it, take it at its face value. And then there is an instance of misleading argumentation that also was kind of encountered. So what do we mean by misleading argumentation here is where you have a dialectic, context. So there is a debate happening on a particular, topic between, say, Advaita and Dvaita. Now, instead of portraying that the Dvaitins were able to take on the dialectic and respond in a, respond to it logically, or say with evidence or with pramanas, instead of saying that, you bring in a reason, or you portray a particular representation that seems to shut the mouth by showing a completely non-contextual, but, contestable kind of a scenario. So, for example, so here in this particular article, when he was, dealing with the question of, validity of scriptures, which are the scriptures that are considered to be valid. So here the narrative goes as, obviously there was the danger of a circular argument here, Chakraka, in the case of considering valid scriptures as those that agree with the supremacy of Narayana. Now, this is between, the Advaita and Dvaita Vada, wherein validity of scriptures, which are the, scriptures that are valid, is being discussed. But a solution to this was found already by Madhva himself. He was an incarnation of Vishnu. His followers believed him, and this obviously lent much more weight to his views about Vedic religion. Okay, so this term religion didn't sound, apt to me. So I just thought maybe we also need to kind of, because we are not discussing religion at all in this entire, I mean, there's no context of religion, but anyway, Zeidenbus finds that use of the term religion is apt there. So I just thought I should also be able to, highlight that. So the impression that one gets on reading this kind of a passage is that Madhvacharya's philosophy and doctrines are accepted by followers out of faith in his divinity only, and not due to the robustness of his dialectics. right? So the idea that the valid scriptures, the valid pramanas, what all those scriptures, all those agamas that claim the supreme or that established the supremacy of Narayana are supposed to be the valid scriptures. Now this stand that Dvaitins or Madhvacharya takes is considered to be valid or robust only on the strength of Madhvacharya being the Vayu Amsha, and not because he was able to establish it from a dialectic perspective, right? So that is the impression that is created through this kind of narrative. And then there is something which we could call as etic jaundice. So what is etic is, of course, like you are as an outsider when you study the tradition, that is the etic study of it. So this kind of jaundice, I thought, would be better to describe as the ignorant, the critiquer, or the one who's critiquing. Say, for example, here Zaidan Bose being ignorant about the ignorance of the insider view in comprehension and interpretation of Shastric doctrines and statements, leading oneself to misplaced sense of discovery and victory. They consider that having, because they didn't have an understanding of the what is the traditional understanding or the comprehension of the thought process that goes on in our philosophies. They feel that they have discovered, or they have come across something, invented something to critique the Indian philosophical stand, or the traditional stand, and they also feel victorious about it, that you people didn't know this. See, this is how see, I found a big loophole in your argument. So this, they feel victorious over the traditional insider view and the view of the concept. So this statement that he has made in the article, for example, he says Madhva interpretation of this sukta, which is about the Balitha Sukta, is an example of how in the course of time creativity has done remarkable things with the eternal Veda. So he makes a sarcastic, so-called he thought he's making a sarcastic comment, and the idea that the Veda would already refer to the characters from the Ramayana and Mahabharata demands very much from a historically conscious reader. Historically conscious reader is another term that is very important for historical critical critics, but yeah, I don't know how much it applies to the actual Shastra, right? And the exegesis that supports this barely convinces Zaidanus, right? So the impression that is created by this particular statement is that Madhvacharya's interpretation of Veda is fictional or imaginative, because it's like a lot of creativity has been done. That's what they say, that the readers cannot be convinced by any means of knowledge, any pramana, including reasoning, while the passage actually exposes the ignorance of Zaidan Bose regarding the circular nature of time identified in the Bharatiya comprehension. But he finds, if we read the passage, what we understand is he finds himself, he considers that he has been victorious in, being able to point out that Vedas are accepted as eternal, and Madhva's interpretation of the Sukta is bringing in the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata, which are supposed to be linearly later in time. And see, now you have to, only by creativity or fictionally creating in an eternal Veda, which is Nitya, where Ramayana and Mahabharata come later and chronologically later in time, how can he bring here and interpret unless and until it is an imaginative, a figment of imagination? That is the kind of, he feels very victorious about being able to point out such a huge, loophole that Madhvacharya has done in the interpretation of the Sukta. So when we look at this scenario, the way the Indologists are, explaining their understanding of the Dvaita texts, not just Dvaita, this is just an illustration that I was bringing up. What came to my mind is definitely that research sans, bias, because bias is at the base of Indological study. That is the foundation on which the entire edifice of Indology stands. That being the case, it would be good for the Bharatiyas to provide a guideline saying that, okay, take some understanding also from that perspective. Here I was reminded of, the shloka of Bhagavad Gita, karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhuhu ma te sangostva karmani. Here, when we look at it from the aspect of, Indological study, I mean, the understanding that I was, able to get from the karmanyevadhikaraste, the shloka itself was that performance of action without keeping the result in mind, since attachment to result as what you like and dislike influences the action. This is the part of the shloka that addresses observer bias. And do not cause the result of action. That is, do not lead your action towards an expected result, is something that connects to observer expectancy effect. And mate sangostu akarmani. So do not renounce action. It addresses the conduct of the study without bias and influence of personal likes and dislikes. So action is not to be renounced, but it is to be performed with only focus on action and nothing else. So I wish to, thank Acharya, Pandurangi Acharya, who has been really the reason for me being here in this seminar today, for the opportunity that I've got here. And I wish to place my gratitude to all the listeners here. Dhanyawad.
So Krishna is waiting for you to have his prasada. So we will finish it now. Before that, I need to congratulate Dr. Vaishnavi for her wonderful presentation.
Kindly let me know if I can log off and continue viewing the YouTube.
Okay. But that is very dear to my heart. Of course, it is Madhvacharya's own work, and it is the one point where which she mentioned is, there is a difference between Madhvacharya's thoughts and his followers' thoughts. It is not the interpretation of Jaidambos. It is interpretation of his guru. That is more a matter of worry for me. And who is guru? Everybody knows. Thanks for this wonderful session, and of course we need to have such a great understanding of all acharyas, not only Dvaita, Advaita, these are all very dear to our hearts, but also